All right, so we're going to be having a pretty interesting discussion on a very popular figure, very well known figure, that is Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan recently had on Bernie Sanders, and I didn't check the view count of that, but it absolutely just went crazy. It went really huge. And then right afterwards, he had Dan Crenshaw, Captain Crenshaw, on, which is very interesting. There were also some right wingers who weren't fans of him, apparently, because he was endorsing red flag laws and different things like that, certain interventions, and they were not fans of that. So that was interesting because that means there's some Republicans who don't like him, as well as pretty much every Democrat doesn't like him either, any sort of lefty or liberal or whatever it may be. Now, the thing about Joe Rogan is it's always really confusing as to where to peg him on the political spectrum because he talks about how he's pro UBI, pro universal health care, pro free college education, all of this different kind of stuff. But then he also does things like this, which is what we're going to look at, as well as, when he railed against AOC's 70% marginal tax rate on money made after $10 million in a year, and, just amongst a bunch of different stuff, okay? And so what happened here is, this is really interesting. So you guys know Ben Shapiro's Sunday special. He had on Piers Morgan. Now Piers Morgan is the dude who used to be on CNN. He's kind of annoying. Like, I don't think anybody likes him. I really don't think anybody wants him to be on their political side, is what it seems like. And so even, like, he says he's left or liberal leaning. I have not seen any lefties like Piers Morgan. So he's basically fending off everybody because nobody likes him. And I'm also surprised that he brought him on because they had a bit of a history. Back in, I forgot what year it was, but it was like 6-7 years ago, maybe even further than that, but I think it was like 7 years ago. They had a big debates, on CNN. They got pretty heated and different things like that, so they didn't seem to be on very good terms, but I guess they're fine with each other now. So this is Piers Morgan on the Daily Wire show. Let's hear him out.
Populism is rising because liberals have become unbearable. And I speak as a liberal, okay? In my core, I'm probably more liberal than not. Although fundamentally, I see myself as a journalist and I'd like to see both sides of all these things. And I can argue both. But liberals have become utterly, pathetically illiberal. And it's a massive problem. What's the point of calling yourself a liberal if you don't allow anyone else to have a different view? This snowflake culture that we now operate in, the victimhood culture, everyone has to think a certain way, behave a certain way. Everyone has to, have a bleeding heart and tell you 20 things that are wrong with them. And I just think it's all completely skewed to an environment where everyone's offended by everything. And no one's allowed to say a joke. If you said a joke 10 years ago that offended somebody, you can never host the Oscars, So now there's no host for anything. The Emmys now just said they're not going to have a host either. So hosts have gone. And soon every award winner will go because everyone's a human and they're all flawed. So no one can win awards anymore because there will be no platform before they even get on the podium. So then no hosts, no stars. Then no one can make any movies because we're all flawed. So no actors, right? So suddenly, where are we? The liberals get what they want, which is a humorless void where nothing happens, where no one dare do anything or laugh about anything or behave in any way that doesn't suit their rigid way of leading a life. No thanks. So what's happening around the world? Populism is rising because people are fed up with the PC culture. They're fed up with snowflakery. They're fed up with everyone being offended by everything. And they're gravitating to forceful personalities who go, this is all nonsense. Which, by the way, it is in most cases. So why are we surprised? I'm not surprised. It doesn't mean to say that I agree with all of it, but it means I can understand it. And I understand why the liberals, my side, if you like, are getting it so horribly wrong. They just want to tell people not just how to lead their lives, but if you don't lead it the way I tell you to, it's a kind of life. I'm going to scream abuse at you. I'm going to get you fired from your job. I'm going to get you hounded by your family and friends. I'm going to make you the most disgusting human being.
Okay, so as you guys saw there, and I skipped there because I had to dodge a word to not, lose monetization. But basically what you guys saw there is he's doing the very common anti-PC shtick that's played by all the conservatives that's been played for a while. And Trump did run on that when he ran, but I don't really find it to be a leading cause as to populism rising. Like, to me, populism is rising not because of PC or anything like that. It seems more to do with things like, to be honest with you, a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump were pretty rich people. He's conservative. He's not really a populist, and that's the thing. He was a fake populist. So a lot of rich people voted for him, supported him, of course, because he passed tax cuts, and they knew he was going to do that. But I really don't see the PC thing as being the main thing. But it's really funny to me, though. Okay, now, and I will say there are some cases where there does seem to be too much of like a reaction from the left on certain issues like that sometimes. But I just find it really funny that like the issue he's talking about here is about like award, like his best example is award shows. Like if that's your biggest issue in society that you're thinking about is award shows for already insane, like it's recognition for insanely rich people who are known by everybody. If that's your number one concern about society and what's going on, you've lost the plot completely. Because when you're talking about serious issues that you should be thinking about when you're talking about politics, you're obviously talking about things like healthcare, getting money out of politics, etc., etc. If that's the first thing you think of, and not like, people not having health insurance, and having to go to the hospital without insurance, or people who are going bankrupt because of their, college education that costs so much money, or people not being able to make ends meet, and your political ideology is being driven by, oh look, there's no host at these award shows. Like, really, bro? Really, dog? Are you kidding me, dude? Now, again, in certain situations, they will get it wrong. Also, I want to say that the right wing is really just as PC as the left wing. There's some recent examples to show this, But all you've got to do is, these are the people who literally wanted the NFL to fire Colin Kaepernick for his free speech. They wanted him to be, fired for taking a knee during the national anthem. These are the people who are complaining about anti-PC stuff. And a lot of people, when they're trying to deliver this boring anti-PC shtick, they utterly fail. Like recently, I forgot what the dude. Adam Carolla, I think is his name. I don't really know much about the guy. I know he's like a conservative dude, but he went on Tucker Carlson's show and he was trying to do like some weird anti-PC talking points, and it really utterly massively failed. I think Kyle did a video on it. It was really horrible. His showing was really just a complete colossal failure. But what you're seeing is that obviously the right wing are just as anti-PC as these guys are. In fact, it's hilarious. I was just reading about how Bolsonaro says that he won't accept any money from Macron of France to help the what's going on with the fires in the Amazon unless he retracts some of his mean comments towards him. These are the people that we're talking about. We're talking about people who are the populist leaders, fake populists, obviously, like Bolsonaro and Trump, who are so emotional, so insecure that, Bolsonaro is not going to accept aid from Macron for the Amazon fires because he said some mean things about him. Like, are you serious, dude? That's really what you're going to do? It's incredibly embarrassing and incredibly clownish. So Joe Rogan, he endorsed this message. He said, completely spot on by Piers Morgan. It's got almost 90,000 likes. So, when you see this kind of stuff coming from Joe Rogan, it just kind of is weird. So I actually asked my Twitter followers, I said, where would you place Joe Rogan on the political spectrum? There's about 1,000 votes in this poll. 34% said the liberal. 9% said further left than liberal. 16% said right wing. And 41% said centrist. Now, I couldn't have fit any more options, but if I could fit a fifth option, I probably would have put, whoever the guesses in front of him is, although it's a bit of a different sort of question, I guess. But as you can see here, you've kind of got, I think, if you combine liberal and further than liberal, you'll get a higher number than centrist, but 41% said centrist. So I'm, again, it just gets tough because when you're talking about someone like Joe Rogan who, endorses stuff like that, doesn't agree with AOC's marginal tax rate proposal and all this different kind of stuff, right? It's tough to paint him. Now, the further left and liberal I find to be really sort of, I don't know. I find it really hard to paint him as further left than liberal, but, he says that he supports things like free college and universal health care and all of these different kinds of things that are, really sort of left wing. If you believe in those kinds of things, you're very left wing in the United States. Now, is he a centrist? If I personally had to pinpoint him, I'd say he's either liberal or I'd say he's centrist. I'd say he's somewhere around there, or I would categorize him as basically he will express whatever views of the person who he's talking to during that day, is what I would say. I think that's the best way to describe Joe Rogan, because it seems like he kind of flip-flops in different ways. Also, remember, I actually did a video that you can go back and look at. This was years ago. I think this was like it was like 3 years ago. Or no, like 2 years ago. There's a video where Joe Rogan tries to, go after Bernie Sanders, which absolutely made no sense. His critiques were completely off. They were embarrassingly bad. And he just is kind of a flip-flopper. Also, before he had Bernie Sanders on a couple months ago, like 5 months ago or so, he said that his opinion of Bernie Sanders changed because he supposedly faked a phone call with someone to dodge some random reporter, which is really weird to me. Why would your opinion on somebody in terms of, their political positions, their deep record change because of that, this random incident that you're referencing? He's just a weirdo, man. He's all over the place. I don't know what to tell you, but I am very eagerly awaiting your guys' response. I want to know what you guys think, Is he liberal? Is he further left than liberal? Which means, because of course liberalism is a very, very milquetoast and very small ideology, really, really tiny, of just kind of wanting to keep capitalism, but not really. I would consider social democracy further left than liberals. I would consider a liberal to be a Nancy Pelosi-esque and Bernie Sanders to be further left than liberal. Or is he right wing, or is he centrist? Or the final option, I guess, is, does he just espouse whatever view of the person that's in front of him? So if he's talking to Captain Crenshaw, he's saying Republican stuff, and if he's got Bernie in front of him, he's saying left-wing stuff. But definitely let me know down below. Very curious to hear them.